Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. Essentially Sports is privileged to be joined by women's MMA royalty in former Strikeforce Bantamweight champion, former UFC Bantamweight champion, and current One Championship Vice President, Miesha Tate. Welcome to the show, Miesha. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. How are you?
All good, yeah. It's just with the lockdown. And speaking of lockdown, how has it been for the past few months in Singapore with respect to the coronavirus, the lockdown, and anything that you have experienced differently on a personal level with the pandemic?
Yeah, so I mean, Singapore has been phenomenal at managing the coronavirus. I feel really safe here, but I will say not being able to travel outside of Singapore has been really hard. As an American who is used to lots of space, and I just imagine myself like if I was in the US right now, which is a crazy place to be, but if I was, I would probably be like road tripping somewhere in an RV or camping or just, getting out in all the space that we have. And this island here has become really small, and I feel a bit claustrophobic. I mean, all these great places to travel around in Asia are just so close, but we just were not allowed to leave. So that's been really challenging, especially for me with my job, like ever going from fighting even to being a VP of One Championship. I mean, I was traveling for every event and then some. So this has been really a forced slowdown, which has been great in some ways and really overwhelming in other ways. So I'm just taking the good with the bad day by day.
The move to another country was a major decision, and you did it with your entire family. Was that a big step? Was there a lot of thought involved in it, or it's like, let's go, let's explore?
It was more of a let's go, let's explore. Like once we made the decision, then I mean, there was a lot to it. Obviously, to get up and move your family across the world is no easy feat, but it just felt like the right thing to do. And it didn't take a lot of thought for me. And I've always been that way. Like since I started fighting, I mean, I fought on like 2 weeks notice with my first fight, with never in my wildest dreams ever thinking about fighting before. It's not like I grew up with something to prove and a chip on my shoulder, and so I had never been in a fight before, but I just like, it feels right in the moment. I'm one of those people that just is willing to take advantage of even the strangest opportunities or the coolest ones, or risky ones, moving across the world. Yeah, that's just part of my personality. I like to get up and go and do things.
You recently had a new addition to your family, and you became a mother for the second time. And can you take us through how joyous that experience was and how that has changed you over the last few weeks?
It's been hard, I won't lie. So our little one is just 7 weeks old right now, and it's been an adjustment. We have a 2-year-old, and it's hard. Sometimes you're not sleeping at night, and then your daughter still, she doesn't care in the morning. Like our 2-year-old, she does not care how much we slept because she had a great night's sleep. So and then we had the lockdown, we had to battle all that, trying to keep a 2-year-old busy. She had like no children to socialize with. That was crazy, but it's also been incredible, and our son is starting to like smile back, getting past that newborn phase, and he's just wonderful. And we had a crazy birth experience. Like we ended up, I don't know if we ended up having the baby at home on accident.
Yes. Yes.
So that was intense, but I guess I'm not good at planning births, because my first one I wanted to have at home, and it ended up having to transfer to the hospital after like 3 days of labor. And then this one came in just 3 hours, and we planned to have it at the hospital, but we had it at home. So yeah, it was crazy. I think I over answered your question, but it's been quite an exciting journey over this way.
Your time at One Two has been an exciting journey. And when the COVID-19 came along, all sports came to a stop. And obviously, the economic impact has hit not only sports but entire organizations. Unfortunately, One Two was hit, and regrettably, they had to part way with a certain percentage of the workforce. Now, how has that been in terms of steadying the ship and getting back on track?
It's definitely put, different workloads like, it's kind of had to consolidate the workloads, if you will. So there's a lot of people who really have had to step up to the plate and do, more than, maybe a little bit more than what they're used to. But at the same time, we've also kind of had, again, a forced slowdown with the company where, it was a lot of work just trying to get to putting on that live event. So, we are back to events now. Obviously they're closed. Nobody's there in attendance because we want to be as safe as possible. But I mean, everyone who's had to really step up to the plate has done that. So I give a big kudos to One Championship that there's a lot of people that are working around the clock to make sure that we can provide good live content again, even though, it's kind of the new norm, right? Things are just different,
Yes.
but we are moving forward.
The new norm and moving forward, you'll have resumed, but looking back at how the UFC resumed a few months back and their success, do you think that one, instead of erring on the side of caution, could have jumped the gun a bit and gone a bit earlier?
It's not our style. You know what? One Championship is all about ethics and people's safety and family first. So we really didn't want to rush it. We probably could have tried to push something a little bit sooner or a little bit faster, but to be honest, I feel like this was like slow and steady was the key for us. And, health and safety is important. And, the UFC's done a great job as well. Like they're doing their thing, and we're happy for them, but we're doing our thing over here, and it's been great for us. So again, we're throwing live events. Took a little bit longer, but we really wanted to be safe. And there's also some other challenges that we had too, with borders really being closed. Like here in Singapore, the borders are completely shut. So you can't just throw an event and bring fighters in. So we've had a lot of challenges with that. So I'm really proud of the team and how hard everybody's worked to get those shows going again.
One has resumed in earnest in Thailand with the no surrender events, and there is a lot of events with the no surrender and various numbers planned for the entire month. How many more events does one have in the pipeline for the next few months?
Actually, quite a bit. We definitely want to make up for lost time. We want to move forward and get used to throwing events in this fashion. So we certainly have our work cut out for us. But speed bumps are not end alls. We're not getting we're not facing any closed off walls. We just are facing different challenges that we kind of have to negotiate and work around. But we're doing just that.
One of the challenges would be that the athletes need to compete behind closed doors without an audience. Now, would you say that that impacts the performance, or it's like just the audience is only there for the fights? They're just 3-4 times a year.
Well, let me say this, it definitely changes the atmosphere. You can hear your coaches and cornermen and or officials and sometimes you can hear a pin drop if everybody's silent, which is so weird if you've never experienced that before. I have been in those situations before, but a lot of fighters haven't, and it will be an adjustment. And this, again, fighting is very individual, so each fighter is going to have a totally different response to that. Not having the crowd, some people really get their energy from the crowd and they enjoy that kind of, and other people are just focused and they have tunnel vision. So, I think this is one of those situations that's very dependent on how the fighter chooses to cope with not having an audience.
Depends on the individual is what you're saying. And also, how long do you think that the athletes would have to compete behind closed doors? When is the possibility of having a certain percentage of an audience in the arena? Has that never crossed your mind?
So say again, sorry.
How long do you think that it will take for an audience to be a part of the arena for the fights?
Oh, you know what? I don't think we're planning on having any kind of audience. For the foreseeable future, right? It's
Okay.
kind of like this is the new norm, and we don't know how long it's going to take for a vaccine to come out that's effective. And, we need health and safety. That's our top priority. So until that, it becomes to a better standard to where everyone's comfortable being in group settings and gatherings, and concerts are going again, and then we will have those kind of events. And I can't wait for that personally, but I don't think that's going to happen in the rest of 2020. So I think we just kind of need to hope for the best in 2021, that we come up with some kind of curative measure or something that it just ensures people's safety or not catching the virus, right? Like a good vaccine. And we'll hope for the best in 2020. You hate to wish your life away, but I kind of just want 2021. I think I keep saying 2020. Hope the best for 2021. And I can't wait for next
You
year.
recently put a post on Instagram where you're just boxing 2020 out of the picture.
Exactly.
That's the sentiment many people would share around the world. But
Yeah.
2020 will be a good year for one, considering that Dominance MMA is bringing in a mass influx of talent. And given Ali Abdelaziz's resume, are you excited for the type of names that would be joining one championship soon?
Without a doubt. You know, Ali is a friend of mine, somebody I've trained with. He trains and works a lot out of Extreme Couture. So he's somebody I'm very familiar with. And he is a very hardworking manager, and he has a ton of talent and a ton of prospects that have yet to really be kind of unwrapped for the world to see. So I think we're going to get some really special treats working with Ali, and I'm excited for what the future holds with him.
Ali has been really silent on who might be joining one. We're wondering, could you shed some light on who might be coming aboard?
You know, I don't work with the athlete development department directly, so it seems like that would be a department, excuse me, that I would be hands-on with, but I'm actually not. I think it's kind of a little bit of a conflict of interest, and so I work mostly with like production. So I unfortunately don't have a lot of insight, but you know, I think Ali has dropped some good names himself. Even Khabib's younger brother, which that
Usman.
sounds really exciting to me. I mean, I don't know if that's something that will happen or whatnot. I don't have any special insight into that, but just speaking as a fan of the sport, I would love to see that happen. I know that Verdum has finished his contract with, you know, with UFC. So, I mean, who knows? Like, I don't know, but there's definitely some exciting prospects to be looking out for. Definitely.
Would you like to see Verdum at one?
I mean, I would love to see Verdum. Verdum is a great person. He's always been such a gentleman to me, a really nice person. He's goofy, he's funny, he's quirky, and he's a hell of a fighter. And, you know, him and Brandon Vera have fought before. I mean, I think that's the fight that would be really exciting for everybody. And, you know, he beat Brandon. So, you know, maybe Brandon feels like there's some unfinished business. I know for me, I always feel like anybody I've ever lost to, you know, you want to get it back, right? So it
Yes.
would be kind of cool, hypothetically speaking, if that was something that would be to happen. I think it would definitely be a treat for the fans.
And a treat for the fans, you're planning to move to the United States to live events. And of course, the North American talent would feature prominently. Now, those plans have been scuppered due to the coronavirus. And when would you all be ideally considering having an event in North America where you have competed for a large part of your career?
Oh man. I mean, I think if we could have done it yesterday, we would have. So I mean, it's definitely still on the docket. It's on the bucket list. It will happen. As far as the timeline, I feel like that is such a difficult question with the COVID circumstances. We just don't know when a solution to that will happen. So again, I think I'm going to have to project sometime in 2020. I keep saying that. Excuse me. I want 2020 to be gone. Get it out of here. 2021. We'll be looking to do that. You know, we were hoping for the end of 2020, but obviously, you know, as you mentioned, it's been scuffled. But we do have a lot of great talent. Angela Lee, her brother, Christian Lee, DJ, Angla. I mean, the list goes on. Eddie Alvarez and more. So, I mean, we're not hurting for talent in the U.S. It's just a matter of like when we can get over there and make an event happen. And a lot of that is weight is put on the COVID situation.
And in the United States, fights are mostly sold with trash talking, and you have looked down on it for a large part of your career. And one fighting championship promotes the values of integrity, humility, courage, all the Asian core values. Now, do you think trash talking, if used in limitation, is a vital selling point, or purely martial arts can make a great deal?
Well, for one championship, it's definitely more about the values and a wholesome aspect. We want any investors or companies who want to rep their brand to feel good about what they're putting their product on and not feel like they're going to have to pull their product off of an athlete or away from one championship because something crazy and unexpected happens, you know, like throwing bottles into an audience or people flying over the cage. You know what I mean? Sure, it's exciting, right? But it's not good. At the end of the
The
day, it's
thrill of
not
the moment.
right. It's not good. And sure, maybe it gets clickbait headlines and things, but at the end of the day, it's kind of disturbing. And I don't think anybody really feels good about that being a part of the sport. So we don't want that. I mean, it's not that people have to like each other in one championship. You know what I mean? And there's plenty that don't, and are, you know, they voice that if they don't like somebody, they're going to let you know, but they do it in a you know, within boundaries, right? There's no low blows. They are respectful enough. So I think I appreciate that, and that kind of resonates with me as well.
Having been a part of women's MMA ever since it started receiving mainstream attention, and how do you feel it has evolved over the decade, where in the earlier part of the decade you were a competitor and a champion, and now behind the desk? How do you feel it has evolved in terms of in-ring competition, level of athletes, and in pay as well?
Well, the whole sport continues to grow and impress me, and I'm going to even use Paige Van Zant as an example. There, and I'm going to draw a comparison. There was a time when women were not allowed to fight in the UFC, and it wasn't that long ago. I think it was 2013 that
Yes.
women made their debut. And so before that, which a lot of my career was before that, I mean, we had like almost no options. It was like Strike Force pretty much, and we were blessed that Scott Coker took a chance on us. But then, you know, we got into the UFC, and now there's women like Paige Van Zant who are saying, I'm going to finish my contract and I'm going to see what my options are. How great is that? You know, so she has options, potentially. Who knows what will happen with her? But it's great to see that women are not only, you know, getting by with fighting, but flourishing, you know, and getting paid better. And I still want to continue to make a difference here in Asia, because not everywhere in the world, you know, is everybody celebrating the martial arts form for women as well as they are for men. So there's still work to do, always work to do, but we are chipping away.
Now, a few male fighters have come out and complained about the pay disparities, like they're not getting an equal share of it from the UFC. Noticeably, the women have been silent on this issue. Like, why do you think this is so?
Oh, you know, it just could be circumstantial, to be honest. It could be that you know, it hasn't happened so much to the females, or maybe the females feel a little bit more grateful, to be honest. Like I said, it hasn't been that long that we've had that opportunity. So a lot of the women who are fighting in the UFC right now are genuinely grateful for the opportunity, right? So I mean, it could be a number of things. I guess I'm kind of hypothesizing here that I don't really have an answer to exactly. I don't have any inside information. So these are just kind of my thoughts that I'm sharing with you. Is probably just circumstantial.
And how do you think the one women's division is shaping up? Like right now, you'll have Muay Thai, kickboxing, and MMA for the atom weights, but there are only ranked competitors in MMA for strawweight. Would there be a Muay Thai and kickboxing for strawweight soon?
Yeah, I mean, we're continuing to develop on those divisions and fill them out and find more talent. You know, I think everybody has to keep in mind, you know, that One Championship is still a pretty young company too, and so we're uncovering talent regularly and building these divisions, and we already have some really badass females, but you know, it takes time to develop full and solid and you know, and rankings too. I mean, they take a lot of work and they take a lot of dedication to that. So we just, I guess it's a culmination of things. And to answer your question, yes, that's coming.
That's coming soon. And you spoke about badass stars, and one of the names you mentioned earlier in the conversation is Angela Lee. Is she someone who has great potential to lead women's MMA at one? Considering she has been the atomweight champion for 4 years now and not lost it, and she's only 24.
She is incredible. Angela Lee is the total package. She's one of the nicest people you ever meet, and she can fight her ass off. She is just a beautiful monster, and I love her. She's great. She will, without a doubt, she already is, you know, a great pioneer of the sport, and you know, really an icon for women. You know, she's Singaporean too, so she's got this great cultural presence for a lot of women coming from Asia, you know, that not everybody can say. So I think she's leading by example, and I think she kills it, not just for One Championship, but as a person.
Now, we had mentioned about one being more for safety and family values, and having competed, I mean, being an athlete in multiple organizations, and having been an executive as well. Do you see any differences in how the UFC treats differently, how Strikeforce was different in terms of managing the talent?
Yeah, I mean, they are. They're each promotion is definitely different. But I think for me, you develop relationships with people inside the organization, and relationships can differ. I mean, you have different friends, you have different coworkers, you have all different things. So I wouldn't, say it's something that is pinned so much exactly on an organization as it is those relationships that you have within the organization. I had great experiences in Strikeforce. I had great experiences in the UFC, and I've had amazing experiences so far here in ONE FC. So maybe it's just people who love martial arts are just really cool. I don't know. Like, I've always had really great experiences, so I have little to no complaints on any end of it. So maybe that's what it is.
And now One has announced that they will be bringing their version of The Apprentice to screens. How excited are you considering that it's a sport organization and they're having a reality series to promote the business side of things? It's not been done by the other promotions before. What do you make of this?
I think it's so cool. And I love that there's going to be some physical challenges. I think that brings such an exciting element of The Apprentice that's never been done before. But I mean, what would you expect from a martial arts organization, from Chaudhry himself? Like, he is a martial artist first and foremost, and he's a businessman and he's a family man, and he wears so many different hats. But if you are going to be an apprentice of Chaudhry, he trains every single day. Every day he makes time. He's one of the busiest men I know, but every day he's either putting on his gi or he's putting on his gloves and trains every day. So if you're truly going to be an apprentice of Chaudhry, I think you kind of have to understand that there is a physical element. Not that people need to be scared that they're going to be drilled into the ground or anything like that. But I think that it's important to understand that a lot of what we do is understanding the sport of martial arts. And I think that element is really going to add a fun twist to The Apprentice.
We say you make an appearance on The Apprentice considering your transition to the corporate role.
Well, that's the plan. I hope so. I hope that COVID doesn't put too much more of a halt on that, because we've been trying to get this show going, and it just sucked
Not
because
happening.
everything's been pushed off, and the whole world's feeling it, right? I mean, everybody's had to adjust and make adjustments. So hopefully it happens sooner than later, but yeah, that is the plan.
And in addition to a corporate role, you also serve as a coach at Evolve MMA. Can you tell us about Evolve MMA, and how does it feel to be an instructor rather than a competitor in shaping the minds of the future mixed martial artists?
So this is the first time that I've got to coach on a regular basis. Granted, I've taught things before, but getting to work with the same people week in and week out, it's been really fun for me. And there's something special about getting to watch people flourish with the knowledge that you can help them with. And I really enjoy it. I like coaching. I work with the amateur team primarily, and they're great. They have a few really great fighters and some people who just like to come in and train, and it's just fun to share knowledge. And I learn things from them as well. It's you're never just the teacher. You always have to have a student outlook on it. So I'll enjoy growing and learning from them as well.
Really emphasizes what you mean about martial arts is you're never learned it, you're always a student even as a teacher. You have said this before.
Absolutely, 100%. Always a student. Every chance that you have to learn something, and I don't care if it's somebody's first week on the mat, or if they're black belt. I mean, realistically, there's things that can be learned from every level and every skill set and every discipline. So I think it's important anytime that you step foot into a martial arts gym to just have that mindset that you're there to learn. Even if you're there to teach, you're still there to learn.
And having retired almost 4 years ago at Madison Square Garden at UFC 205, you moved to a corporate role, you're liking it. And in addition to that, you also serve as a commentator at ONE events, and you conduct the pre and post fight interviews. Now, at such a time, do you ever think that it's time for me to strap on the gloves and get back in again? Like in talking to the fighters, hearing how they are preparing, or their exuberance after they win the match. Like, does that give the rise of the competitor within you?
The fighters evoke a lot of emotion in me, and I feel like I'm there with them in that moment, and I live vicariously through them. but I'll be honest, like I haven't, it hasn't come to, like, it hasn't hit me, like it will hit me, like if it's meant to be, I'll know. And it just hasn't yet, it's, and I say yet, like I'm waiting for it, or something. I'm not waiting for it. I'm not discontent. I'm really happy with my life now. And if I never fight again, it's totally fine with me. That's probably what I think will happen. But I'm one of those people, you ask me, like, was it a hard decision to move to Singapore? Like, no, like when it's just like bang, when and I will not, sit and like be like, should I, should I come back? Should I fight again? It's like, no, like if it's meant to be, I'll just know, and then everyone else will know too. So right now I'm happy. I got two beautiful babies and a great family living in Singapore and doing all these amazing things. And I don't feel like I'm missing anything.
Mostly not going to happen at present. But when you competed, you stood across the cage from some of the most dangerous women to ever set foot in. Now, the GOAT debate also is like open for a lot of queries and a lot of opinions, but you have been staunch on your opinion of Amanda Nunes being the GOAT. Do you think there's anyone who can end her near 5.5 year undefeated streak?
Oh my goodness, that she hasn't fought yet. I would have loved to see her fight Kat Zingano again. I'm not so sure that Kat Zingano would have had the answer necessarily, but it would have been really fun to see. And she does have a win over her, right, before she went on that really hot streak. So right now it's hard to point to anybody and be like, oh, that's the woman. Amanda has just solidified herself as a GOAT, and she's just so good at what she does. So I think anybody that faces her, it's hard to say that you feel like that they have it, that they're going to beat her, but I love watching her fight. She's a hell of a woman. I think she's cleared out the division pretty well, so we'll see what's next for her.
You see her last match at UFC 250 against Felicia Spencer?
Yeah, her last one was against Felicia Spencer. What was the
Felicia.
question?
Did you watch the match and what did you make of Felicia's
Yeah.
performance?
So Felicia, it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. Felicia is young and tenacious and durable and tough. And she went out there and she fought with a lot of heart, but she just too green. And I think, Amanda is so explosive for the division. She really kind of fights more like a guy than she does, like a woman. Like, she's just incredible. And it's hard for women to be on par with her skill set, her explosivity, and her experience. I mean, she's been doing this a very long time as well. So, Felicia did great, and she was very impressive. Somebody I will give a shout out to, though, is a friend of mine, Juliana Pena. She hasn't fought Amanda yet, and I think she's maybe a fight or two away from maybe getting that opportunity. But I think somebody who can grapple and wrestle well is probably going to be the person who has the answer to Amanda. So, we'll see. We'll see if somebody can maybe get her down, drag her down to the ground, and maybe snatch something that she's not expecting in the way of submissions. I don't see anybody beating her in the striking department. She is just, she hits like a truck.
You had recently commented on the stoppage in the men's bantamweight championship fight between Jose Aldo and Petr Yan. You had said that you'd rather have a referee who allows you to be a fighter rather than someone who protects you, because that's what you have signed on for. But at times, the referees do get a lot of stick for letting the fight go on and endangering safety. Now, what is your take on this? Are the referees under too much of pressure?
Oh, the referee, that is such a thankless job. People, are never going to be totally happy. And it's really tough because I know it's in the heat of the moment, and they don't even have the same viewpoint that we do sitting at home, comfortable, relaxed, and from our TV, So you have to understand what a difficult job that is. And their job is to protect us, but it's also to understand us. And I think to know a fighter, you can't be overly precautious. You have to allow the fighters every opportunity to do their job, and their job is to fight. And if you're going to be somebody who stops the fight because somebody got dropped, I think that's wrong. Like, unless they're clearly out, if somebody gets dropped, I think you have to let the fight continue, at least for a moment on the ground, to make sure that because it's not boxing, right? It's not boxing, it's not kickboxing. There's no standing 10 count. There's none of that, right? So we get one opportunity, and just because it goes to the ground doesn't mean that it's done. So I was not upset at all about the Jose Aldo Peter Yan fight. I know that some people felt like it was really late. I don't. I mean, could it have been stopped a little bit earlier? Yeah, you could make that argument, but I would not say it was a bad stoppage.
Now, about dropping fights, there was another fight on Fight Island, Francisco Trinaldo and Jay Herbert, where Trinaldo dropped Herbert and Herbert collapsed, and Trinaldo just stopped for an instant. And even the commentators were screaming at the referee to call the fight. But Trinaldo landed in 4 more blows after going down, and then the fight got stopped. Now, what would you comment on that stoppage? Was that a bit too, like, he clearly couldn't defend himself?
So I watched that a lot of times, and from as many different angles as I had access to. And from Herb's point of view, I think what happened when the fighter fell back, his arm came up, his knee came up on the correct side, on the defensive side, which leads you to believe that they're at least aware of what's going on, right? And he's trying to mount some kind of defense, and he understands where he is relative to where the other fighter, his opponent is. So I think Herb should have been a bit closer, and I think that he should have tried to stop it after the first blow that landed on the ground, once it was on the ground. The 3 after that was a little bit hard to watch, because you realize once his head bounced off the mat that it was, he really wasn't as aware as maybe you want to give him the chance that maybe he is, right? You can't tell. And I'll use Robbie Lawler against, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Ben Askren, right? When he had him in that choke, and everybody, even the commentators, I thought he was out, right? And Herb Dean, tried to check. The point in case is, it's really a tough job to do. And, you never know if you're doing it exactly right, but I prefer a referee who errs on the side of the fighters being able to do their job than, everyone who's stopping fights way too soon, because it's heartbreaking. People don't realize that our careers depend on having at least an opportunity to win. So yes, safety is a part of it, but think about it. If you were that fighter and you were okay, you got clipped and you got knocked down, but you knew what was going on and you were ready to fight on the ground and you had your wits about you, and a ref stopped it just because, it's like that person loses half of their pay and their spots in the rankings, and their, if it's a number 1 contender fight or anything like that, like Jose Aldo and Peter Yan, I mean, this is like a huge important fight. So I can't stress that enough, like how much it means to the fighters to have every opportunity to fight and to win. There's a reason why we have a comeback of the year award, every year, because fighters do it all the time. Fighters are crazy. You'll think a fighter is completely done. Sometimes they are, but sometimes they come back to shock the world. So just give them that opportunity.
One is continuously expanding, and India is an untapped market, and you all have women's atomweight MMA competitor Ritu Phogat, undefeated in her professional career. Is she someone who can lead the one movement into India, or is it too early in her career to say how good she might be?
Well, it's certainly early in her career, but if you look at what she's been able to do, I would say her trajectory it's a pretty safe bet that she's going to do big things. She's going to do great, because people don't understand how much she's already had to overcome to be where she's at, and that's what she does. This woman overcomes and she leads, and I don't think she even realizes the effect that she will have, but she's going to be somebody for India that she will be an icon. She already is an icon, I guess. She will be somebody who people look back on and we're like so amazed, and women will be inspired, and she will forever change what the sport of mixed martial arts means to people around the world, not just India, but of course representing India. I think it'll hit close to home because it hasn't been done. It hasn't been done in India yet, right? It hasn't been done by. So she is setting a precedent. She is breaking glass ceilings. She is marching down, and she wants to become a champion. And I know she has every ability to do that. She's a very hard worker. She's got a great wrestling skill set, and her other skills, you couldn't ask for them to develop any faster than they are. So she's really, yeah, I think she's on a great path to success.
We've got time for one fan question here.
Sure.
One fan is asking us, which is the one fight that Miesha Tate would love to have a do-over in her career?
The one fight. I want to
Yes.
pick more than one. Okay, just one. um, it's really tough because obviously there's the Ronda fight, right? And I felt like I was so close to getting that trilogy, and it just sucked how it all went down. But also, part of me has always wanted to avenge the loss to Kat Zingano because I really felt cheated in that loss. I felt cheated. See, here's my crazy coming out. Like, I didn't feel like that fight should have been stopped. I was still coherent, and yes, I was taking damage, but I felt like I was still in the fight, and so I'm mad about that one. You know, the Ronda losses is like, you know what? She was a better woman that night, and sure, I'd love another crack at it. I would like to fight her as many times as it takes for me to beat her. That's just how I look at it. But I'm more bitter about the loss to Kat just because I wanted to keep fighting, and I felt like that was taken from me by the ref. And maybe that's where I
That's
get
why you maintain that the referee should let the fighters do their job as fighters?
Say again?
Is that why you maintain that the referees should let the fighters do their job as fighters?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of where it stems from because there was so much on the line for that fight, you know, to get to coach on the Ultimate Fighter. That's what that fight was for, and to solidify a spot as a number one contender. And you know, I'm lucky. I'm so fortunate that I still got to do those things, even coming off of a loss, because unfortunately, Kat Zingano, she tore her ACL or something, so she had to have surgery, and she couldn't do it. So I got to still step in anyways. But I mean, had that not happened, imagine like if there was no Ultimate Fighter with Ronda and I. Just think about it. I mean, how much of a part of the storyline that was, and that never would have happened had everything gone the way that it was planned to, because the referee stepped in, and you know, I remember her telling me, all you got to do is show me you're still in the fight. And I don't feel like I ever showed her like I wasn't still in the fight. Granted, yes, I was taking damage, but I was fighting. You know, let me do my job.
And that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining us, Miesha Tate. It's been a
You're,
great pleasure chatting with you.
yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Sending much love. Stay safe, stay well, do your social distancing, wear your mask, wash your hands, all that good stuff. Lots of love. Bye, everybody.